Patients here. Welcome everyone to Wellness Wednesdays with CJ. I am Christian Jackson, your licensed mental health and wellness professional homegirl and daddy issues expert. It is time for us to drop some knowledge here. Per usual, one of my favorite things to do is get on here and connect with you guys to talk about mental health. It is Mental Health Awareness Month here in May. But I don't need a month to talk about mental health. It's just my jam. It's something that I like to do. It's important for me to, again, connect with you all and give people who may not have access to this type of information just that. Maybe you're too nervous to go to therapy. You're not really sure why you would even go. You have enough traumas and you think that going to therapy is too much. It will re traumatize you. This is a place for you because Wellness Wednesdays is going to give you just those general tips and connections to me and my connections in case you were looking for a therapist. So if this is your first step into doing something therapeutic, welcome to my channel. I am here on Instagram. Hey, Chrislyn. I am here on Facebook and YouTube. And so you can catch me either place. And I would appreciate if you share this video with someone. If you went to my YouTube page, got the link, you can find it in my bio on Instagram, or you can share it from Facebook and subscribe to my YouTube channel. My son tells me every week I forget to let people know to go to my YouTube and make sure that you guys subscribe. This is all new to me, right? But what I am an expert at is daddy issues. So for those of you who do not know me, and I call myself the daddy issues expert, it is because I wrote books about it. Okay, get into it. And without giving you a very, very long commercial, what I want you to know about the daddy issues book and the movement, and that is that it is real. What I'm doing with these books is telling my story. I have a difficult relationship with my father, even still to this day. The book that I wrote is really a product of me processing in therapy my daddy issues. I have an emotional trauma kind of scars that, those symptoms flare every once in a while. And you say, what are symptoms? What are daddy issue symptoms? In the book, I'm describing to you what that fear of rejection, that abandonment, those identity issues, self-esteem issues, all those things that come with being a survivor of emotional trauma, specifically related to daddy issues and or the father wound, some people call it. I'm outlining that for you here. And so in between each chapter, we are really looking at what those relationships look like as far as friendships, being a mother, being an auntie, being a coworker, being a friend, being a partner of life. How was all that affected by your daddy issues? It is all here. And in between each chapter, you have a chance to kind of take pause, because what we're doing here in the book is showing you what those attachment issues may look like. For example, I wrote a whole chapter on that. Attachment meaning what is getting in the way of me making a secure attachment, being secure in my relationship, in bold, that my partner is okay with me, I'm okay with me, we're two whole people. What gets in the way of that? Sometimes it is our daddy issues, right? And so I'm describing to you what different women look like with daddy issues, whether you're the gold digger, the people pleaser, which we're going to get into tonight, the promiscuous type, the clingy type. Who is she? Who is this? And before y'all get offended on all these different terms I'm bringing up, please note, your girl was all of those. Since I wrote the book. And so the workbook that comes with it, which I would recommend you get together, is to help you process those questions I put in between each chapter of the actual book. You get a chance to look at the activities, engage, and really do some self-reflective work, right? And if you want to take that work further, the Daddy Issues Healing Circle is popping. It's going on right now. We are going into week 4. I have 6 amazing women that show up ready every week to work. We are in between every group with the Facebook group so we can communicate with each other and find support. And this past week, we dove into the archetypes of the women with daddy issues. And I want to get into one of them today because it is not solely just about being a woman with daddy issues. Have you ever considered people pleasing? The difficulty of saying no and why that is. We're going to get into that tonight. And so what I want to say is the definition of people pleasing. You can put it in the chat. You can come back and I'll engage with you. It's really the approval seeking that we have of other people. We're not necessarily settled and content and happy unless we have made others happy. We have sacrificed our own needs to make sure that everybody else is okay. That is what people pleasing is. Whether it is I'm going to go to this restaurant, even though I don't even eat meat and I don't like this food, just for you. I can't say no because you've asked me to babysit before and an emergency came up, but I'll go ahead and deal with that later. My crisis is going to take the back burner. I'm going to say yes to you. Why is that? What is happening? And that is unique to everyone's story. Saying no has been like recurring theme lately in the conversations I've been having with both friends and colleagues. And so it's important for us to really hit this head on. I do want to say, as a woman with daddy issues, and for you out there who may think that she has daddy issues, and the spoiler is you probably do, sis. That's my argument in the book. You can purchase it at my website if you just kind of want to be down and see what I mean by that. But a people pleaser, for my case, right, as a woman with daddy issues, is that it's coming from a very performative space, right? And so for me, if I wanted to get my dad's attention, and as a child or as an adolescent, when him and my mom had split, the idea was I can get my dad's attention if I have good grades. If I have a band competition that he may want to see, can I be entertaining enough to keep him around for more than an hour a day to come cook us dinner and then leave, right? We didn't really text or anything back in the day like that. We didn't have that capability. And so it wasn't like I was even getting that attention in between. And so the more that I flashed and did my jazz hands, right, I felt like that would be attractive enough for him to stay around. And so that bled over into different relationships that I had, right? Friendships. It may have happened at work. I'm going to work really hard and do all this overtime and make sure that I always say yes to my supervisor if they want something. Why is that? It may be because of something that's part of the equation is your daddy issues. Who is your critic? The critic meaning, who is that person that would give you like the side eye if you did not do something? So that is what we need to identify. So what I'm going to say is that step one to overcoming this people pleasing mentality is becoming familiar with the critic. Who do they sound like? For some people, for me, it was my father for a long time. But I do want to say daddy issues are not the end all be all of everybody's mental health issues, right? That's not it. It's just part of the equation. So in my case, it was my dad. Who is the critic in your head? Who's the person that would be like, why are you doing it like this? Why are you saying no? Why are you setting boundaries? What's happening? You know you shouldn't do that, because if you do, then you're going to be looked at it this way. You're going to feel that way. You're going to bring shame to the family, which is a huge responsibility for a lot of people if you don't do that. Who is that critic in your head? It is likely someone who was supposed to protect you, someone that you admire, someone you may even be trauma bonded with, right? Once you identify who that person is, and it may even be a big picture where you may not have had a tight village and didn't really have someone to pour into you or raise you. It might even be society. The critic may be the Cosmopolitan magazine that sets out all these different ways on how to have a relationship and how to be a good partner and how to have good sex and all these things. Were you really informed and kind of grew up watching those things? Maybe that's the critic, because you're going against those things because we find ourselves, right? So once you figure out who the critic is, you identify them, and you understand their projection. I think that's a really important part of the process of overcoming people-pleasing tendencies is understanding that projection, meaning somebody kind of dumping their stuff on you. I'm telling you not to trust men because I had a negative relationship with a man very early. I think that all men are terrible. You can't trust them. I've never had a safe connection with a man. So of course I'm going to tell you that, right? That's me projecting all that stuff onto you. So you identify the critic, and then you kind of realize what is it that what space are they coming from? Why are they informing me of this thing? What junk are they spilling onto me? That is the piece that's going to be really important when it comes to really taking this critic apart, right? Really understanding the mechanism behind the way they think. Because most likely, if you're coming into your own, you're on a journey of healing, then it's going to conflict with who you are. And if there's something that's touching your stuff, and it's part of your values, which we're going to talk about, if it conflicts in that way, then most likely it's not your truth. And that's okay. And so you can challenge their ideals, right? You've identified this critic. You understand that this their stuff they're trying to put on you. And then you challenge it. You come up with whoever you are based on your values. And I've talked about this in lives before. The second step after becoming familiar with your critic and overcoming the people-pleasing mentality is to know your values. And this applies to so many things across the board. I like to call it kind of finding different components and writing your personal mission statement, right? And so you're looking at things like, I value peace, family, my spirituality, loyalty. I value respect. What are these things that you know that you stand upon? What are the things that you want to kind of live up to? Where do you want to go? Values change over time, especially when it comes to considering things like life changes. And so what is it that you live by? Who is it that you actually admire enough, and who are you kind of gleaning these different values from? It may actually, in a twisted way, it may be your critic, right? The person who criticized you the most and poured into you in a certain way, maybe you adopted their values and it's time to reevaluate what they are. I usually recommend for my clients to look at it every 6 months, at the very least every year. When people do vision boards, I believe that's people looking at and reassessing their values, right? So if you want to overcome the people pleasing mentality and you're going to start peeling back layers and challenging this critic, then who are you underneath it all? That is so important for you to know what that person looks like, who she is, who he is, who they are, what they want to engage in, how they want to engage, how they want to experience and show up in different spaces. That is all only by getting to know your values. What are your top 10s? And then using this to help you guide decisions. It's going to help you say no. When you want to get out of that mentality of people pleasing, you knowing that I value my peace, I value loyalty, may help you set a boundary with someone that you really hadn't considered, was really kind of taking a lot of energy, right? It's really that person that's kind of taking and you're pouring and you're only giving and you seem depleted after a while. Per your values, because you reevaluate those things or at the very least identified them, it may be easier for you to stamp that whole people pleasing mentality in the face, because you're putting yourself first. My hope is, and when I'm writing my book, when I'm talking about it in group, the major key to overcoming daddy issues is putting yourself first, in that you start to value yourself. So hopefully, part of you looking into your values and really sitting with that thing means that you put yourself in a space where you know you have to be healthy in order to do anything else, right? And so the last thing that I want to share with you, as far as overcoming people pleasing mentality, is this notion that we got to set boundaries. And we all know that, right? Like, we know we need to put up a wall. Boundaries come in different forms, right? So maybe it's not a super rigid wall unless it's with someone that you know is unhealthy. We know what boundaries are. We know that we have to draw a line between us and someone who doesn't benefit us in our mental health, our spiritual, mental, emotional, and social health. We know that. But how do we overcome the boundaries, which is a whole different talk in itself? I think that it's going to be important for you to identify the barriers. So that's why, if you're watching on Facebook and Instagram, you see on the screen right now barriers to boundaries. We got to figure out what's getting in the way. We know what the boundaries are, but what is that block that has us saying, I can't say no? And it's because of that people pleasing mentality, because we are told by someone that it's rude to say no. We're not allowed to do that. It's so easy to become a people pleaser because we don't have boundaries. We don't let people know that we can't make a meeting. We don't tell people that we are too busy or too tired to be in their space. We don't tell people that we are going to, well, we're not going to ignore phone calls because we want to make sure that we don't lose this friend. What is the worst thing that's going to happen if you do say no? And so part of the barriers to boundaries and us saying no is because we've played it up so high in our heads, and we've created a monster that we feel like we can't overcome. And it's really sad because, again, along the lines, if you've been listening so far in this live here and you go back and watch the replay, we talked about becoming familiar with the critic. A lot of that time, becoming familiar with the critic, identifying the critic, is getting to know and revisiting some of the things that they've said. And thank you, Kristen. I appreciate that. This is good information, and we all know what we are supposed to do, but it's really hard to do that. And I think this conversation, even if it's with myself tonight, is because it's like the first step to becoming free. What is the purpose of us being a people pleaser? And I think that might be part of the conversation you would need to have with yourself. What is the worst thing that would happen if you say no? Ask yourself that. Who told you it's not okay to say no? After you've identified the barriers, it's like getting in touch with what it feels like to even say no, or to say not right now. Maybe it's just not this second. What does it look like or feel like or taste like coming out your mouth for you to say no? So if you even imagine the person that would be the hardest to say no to, and then just in your head, because I know we all do it, right? We kind of replay scenes in our head. What would we really say, and how would that go? Maybe you need to write a letter to the person that you know would just give you all the business if you actually did tell them no, or you set some type of boundary. Again, maybe not no, maybe it's not right now. And if you have to satisfy that people pleaser in you for right now as you work on her or him or they, then Not right now, maybe the next move for you. And what value is that based on? And are you defying this person that was the critic at one point? Again, the critic is likely someone that was close to you in the beginning, someone who poured into you when you were coming up doing formative years. It's really crucial for you to be able to tell that person, whether it's in a letter or you journal, and never show that person again who you are. It's usually okay that you have grown into a different person, because we all have to do it at some point, right? I want to close with, this is not it, right? People pleasing is it's a whole, I think, book in itself. I'm sure somebody's written it out there, but I am going to blog about this. So if you didn't know already, my website is couchwithchristian.com. I want to invite you to join me on the website. Find out a little bit more about me if you haven't already. Get a little bit of my story if you want my whole story and my why and what's happening and why I wrote the book. You can visit my website at couchwithchristian.com. It's in the link in my bio here on Instagram. Check out the blog, catch up on what I have going on there. Comment, let me know what you think. Be on the lookout for the next blog piece, which is going to be expounding upon this people-pleasing mentality. If you want to join the group, this exclusive announcement I'm going to leave for you guys here is that the group is going to be opening up, the Daddy Issues Healing Circle, that is, on July 26th. Again, right? We're about halfway through as of this coming Monday, that we're 4 weeks in of the 8-week group. And I'm really excited about that. We're halfway through. I didn't even know that it would come or that I could actually do that. But I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I'm letting you guys know now, because I know that some people just need to kind of get their coins together for everything happening. And as it becomes closer and I'm wrapping up this last group, I'm going to be giving you testimonials and hopefully taking some surveys to release to you guys so you can really know what it is. Okay, because the women in there are very serious, very open, and they're engaging with each other. We processed people pleasing at length this past Monday, along with all the other different types of women with daddy issues. You can follow me on Instagram here at Couch with Christian, on Facebook as well, where you can see for the rest of this week, I am kind of giving you tidbits of what these women with daddy issues looks like. I think the most popular one was probably the promiscuous type. That's something that people really like to talk about, or the gold digger. And I have a different perspective. If you want to purchase my book, I talk about what the gold digger really could be digging for, right? And it's not silver or gold. And if it is, we're going to take it deeper so you know that there's something more to that, right? There's even a people-pleasing mentality to the woman who was promiscuous. There's a people-pleasing mentality to the woman who was a gold digger, right? So expand that definition. Really dig deep. Widen your lens when it comes to who this people pleaser could have been, what insecurities she may have been coming from, operating from, what space she is nervous to show up in, and why. The people pleaser mentality is going to be something you can all overcome. Again, if you are becoming familiar with that critic, knowing who that voice is in your head, knowing your values, so that when you peel back those layers, you know who you stand for and why. And then also knowing what the barriers are to the boundaries that you know are necessary to set up really for your own overall health. Look out for the blog that I'll probably be dropping in about 2 weeks to expand upon this people-pleasing conversation. Go back and watch, comment. I will engage with you. I appreciate you guys being here with me and getting this exclusive tidbit that you are invited to participate, ladies, in the Daddy Issues Healing Circle, which will be opening up again midsummer, July 26th. Look out for more information. Share this content with a friend. Share my page with a friend. You can join my email group if you'd like to. You can just look at my website and you'll see how to get in touch with me. Y'all have a great night. Can't wait to hear what you guys have to say later this week. And thank you guys for showing up on